All right. Sorry for the brief delay in starting today's show, everybody. Welcome to, we had some minor technical difficulties, but it's all worked out now. We're good. We're all here. We're ready. Welcome to Ep.7 of Tire Talk with Atturo Tires with special guests this week, the co-founder of Dub Magazine and host of SEMA Educations, The Stage, Mr. Myles Kovacs. Thank you for joining us, Myles. We really appreciate you coming on the show this week.
No, likewise. Thanks for having me. It's awesome.
Do you want to just give your own little brief introduction of yourself, or maybe people out there who aren't familiar with you, if there is any in the car community?
No, for sure. I mean, I'm Myles Kovacs, president and co-founder of Dub Magazine, and we also president and co-founder of Lift and Leveled, Adventure Rigs Magazine, Dub Show Tour, Lift and Leveled shows. And then a lot of people may not know, some people do, that I'm the president and co-founder of TIS and Dropstars Wheels, off-road wheels. And I've been, designing wheels. I have over probably 200 wheels I design now. So I've designed for companies like KMC and Motegi, Lorenzo, Spintech. I actually invented the Spintech. That was one of my companies before I started Dub. Lorenzo Wheels also. Then TIS and Dropstars. So I've been, pretty blessed. I've designed over 200 wheels in the marketplace, and to be honest with you, I can't even draw. So it's all in my mind and able to communicate with engineers and manufacturers and stuff, and get what I want out of it.
I think that's a good point. I think it's a lot of people are really creative, and it's getting that creative mindset, that creative energy out somehow. And a lot of people, like you said, can't draw, can't do some of that. So having a good team of people that you can work with and you can trust to bring a product like that to life, I think is really crucial. I think it's awesome that you've been able to do that with over 200 wheels.
Thanks. Yeah, 200 wheel designs, and I think the sales for the wheels have been over $100 million total.
Wow, that's great. So I guess first let's go into, so you host the SEMA for SEMA Education. You're the host of The Stage. So if you want to talk a little bit about that and maybe your thoughts on SEMA this year, given the current global situation, how do you think SEMA is going to change or happen, or how do you think that's going to affect the SEMA show?
Well, the first question is, I'm the host of the SEMA Education Stage, and it's presented by the WTC, the Wheel Tire Council. So it's basically interviewing industry icons, and some of it's their story personally, their journey, which was, amazing. I mean, I had Chip Foose on there, and he's talking about his father and how this was the first time he built a car that his dad's not going to see it because his father passed away, and he started crying during the interview. It was a very emotional moment. So it's like that, and then it's also technical data, talking to engineers and stuff, and talking about safety, talking about, new trends, new technological trends. Is there going to be a rim and tire in the future, or is it just going to be one object that's a rim and a tire? So it's there's all these different, kind of really cool things. And again, you get to hear from people that are, veterans of this industry, and you hear some really cool stories.
So do you think that how do you think SEMA is going to look this year? Do you think it's actually going to happen given the coronavirus pandemic? How do you think the industry and the show is going to have to adapt if it does happen?
Well, for us, we're planning on being there. So for us, and SEMA's planning on doing the show. So that's good. And, think about after 9/11, I think SEMA was one of the first trade shows that went on after 9/11. It was successful. After Route 66, I think it was what it was called, the shooting in Las Vegas. SEMA was, I think, one of the first trade shows after the shooting. So SEMA itself has the tendency to overcome all of this adversity just because it's such a fantastic show and everybody wants to go. I don't know one person that wants it to be canceled. So I think that's a good thing. I think the real question is, what are the cities, the states, the local government, the national government going to allow happen? So the show may go on, and hopefully it's going to be business as usual. I mean, let's all hope. But if it does go on, there might be some changes. They might have to, alter the show in different ways. So there's social distancing or this or that. So, they haven't said exactly what SEMA is going to do, but I would say within the next couple months, they're going to have to at least set out a release and say, look, guys, this is what our expectations of the show are this year. And, this is the guidelines and things like that. But I think time will tell. Like I said, I'm super pumped. We're going business as usual to have SEMA and to really, rock it like we normally do.
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, as far for us, it's business as usual now, and hoping that something doesn't change here right before the show happens. We're hoping to be there. We're hoping to have our indoor booth and our outdoor booth like we did last year. We stepped it up to the outdoor booth last year, and I think that was a good thing for us. And I saw today Universal Studios in Orlando decided they're going to open up beginning of June. So I think as more big venues like that start to open up, it'll kind of start to give us the benchmark of what things are going to look like in the aftermath of this. Are people, even if these things do happen, are people going to be willing to go to it? Or are people going to be scared still? Or what's going to happen with that? So I think that's going to be really interesting to see.
I think everybody's so tired of staying home that, it's like, there's cabin fever going on everywhere and there's not even snow on the ground. But, I think the key thing right now is, they could open, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to increase the number of people that have, been affected. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I was just glancing at the news before I walked in here, and I heard them saying that all of the counties in Los Angeles, Orange County, and things like that, all had a spike in coronavirus today. Oh. And is that because it's loosening up? Is that because they allow people to go to the beaches? Is that, what I'm saying? So I think that there's still enough time to both hurt it and help it, because if they do release it and it creates an issue, then they're going to go back down, right?
Yeah.
So it's really, and then also, I don't know if you heard too, there's a bunch of cities in China that just re-shut down again.
No.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday. 100 million people back on lockdown over there. I think a second spike is to a degree inevitable because you're never going to have the same sort of limits on cases with even social distancing and mask wearing and this and that as you would with people just sitting in their house because there's considerably less human contact. But I think it's finding that balance between conducting business, protecting people's mental health and mental sanity and anxiety and all that, and still protecting them from coronavirus. There has to be a middle ground to all that.
Well, I think the what people don't want is like a really hard lockdown. But I think that that's the only way to actually, get rid of the issue is to really just lock it down everywhere. Because if they start letting pockets open up, all it's going to do is spread. Yeah, they're going to open up Walt Disney World and this and that. But what it's going to do, people are going to come from other countries and they're going to spread the potential disease to other countries. I mean, this is a pandemic. This is not like, well, if they spit directly in your eye, you're going to get it. So you just got to make sure that nobody spits in your eye, right? This is, this is almost like you're dealing with an invisible enemy. It's invisible. You don't know where it's at. It's like you're sitting there like, dude, and it's like punching you all over the place. And you're like, man, like, can I pour powder on this guy so I could see him? No. So I think that, that fighting the invisible man creates a lot of anxiety,
I think it does. And I think it's just the fact, especially, I think the language that they used early on, telling people that you need to act like everything has the virus on it. I'm like, okay, well, that's good, but you're telling people that. So now you're just going to have people wiping down everything constantly, thinking about every single thing they touch. How many people touch that door handle? How many people touch that phone? How many people touch that gas pump? Like, you're just going to create this incessant need to think about now everything I've touched in the day. And oh my God, how much virus is now on my hands, when in reality, maybe there's none. Maybe there's a lot. We don't know.
Well, the reality of it is I'm OCD, so I do that anyways.
Yeah.
So it's like, welcome to my world. It doesn't, to me, it hasn't affected, or the only difference is I wear a mask and I wear gloves.
Yeah.
before that, I used to wash my hands and sanitize my hands and touching everything. So to me, it's like, it's kind of the same. Does it get into your psyche? Absolutely. It's like, I mean, every time you go to the grocery store, I mean, you feel like you're going to war, man. Like you might not come back.
Yeah. You're putting the mask on and the gloves on.
Yeah. You're looking at the avocados going, are those grenades or avocados? You know what I'm saying? Like you just don't know what to do.
Somebody touched them.
Yeah. And I think that's like you said, the washing your hands and sanitizing. I think that's such a big thing, especially for people like us in this industry, when you're going to trade shows and going and meeting people all the time and touching. I mean, they said one of the biggest ways this or anything spreads is through shaking hands. You got to think, like, just like at SEMA, how many hands do you shake in the course of even an hour? Like, it's.
I mean, I shake a lot of hands, so I use hand sanitizer and wash my hands and stuff. And to be honest with you, I mean, there's times where I don't want to shake people's hands. I just don't. And it sucks. And it's like, I don't want to be disrespectful, but it's like, I've shaken 1,000 hands already, And then how many times are you in the bathroom at SEMA and you see a guy piss and he just walks right out? Yep. It's like, that's the same guy that's going to want to probably shake my hand in 20 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, hey, hey, nice to meet you. No, sorry. I just saw you take a leak in the bathroom. Didn't wash up. We're going to have to pass there.
Dude, I mean, that's what happens. And it's just like, dude, do you want that? I don't want that, that's for sure. But, that's the reality of it. So it's like a new normal. I mean, this is going to be the new normal.
I think it'll cut down on all sorts of viruses and diseases significantly because of the additional precautions people are taking in terms of not shaking hands, washing your hands. I mean, as a common rule, people probably should have been washing their hands more than they were generally. So this isn't like all bad, but we'll see how that changes. If people continue following those guidelines after this is over.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, people forget really quickly until something happens to them. And then it's like, oh my God, it's like, dude, this is pretty serious. Yeah, this is pretty serious. Is it blown out of proportions in certain ways? I think so. But they're doing that to get people to just follow order, and that's all it is. It's just, they want, part of it is, I believe, control. The government wants to control us. They want to let us know that they're in charge.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of those things where it's you have to. I've always kind of said this, and people complaining about lockdowns and why do we need to lock down if everyone just wore masks or wash their hands? And it's like the government has to create policy appealing to the lowest common denominator, to the people who aren't going to listen. So if we could operate under the assumption that there would be 100% compliance, we would have never had to shut. We could just wear masks, wash our hands, did that, and we would have been. But you're never going to get to that 100% compliance. So they have to work with what they have by just dialing it way back and doing that versus assuming that people are going to listen.
No, for sure. And I think what's been the saving grace for our industry has been that rims and tires and cars and stuff like that, and transportation is, considered a necessity, so the stores that I've been talking to, they're all open. I mean, to be honest with you, our sales are up 40% right now from last year. And we had a 30% increase last year. So our stuff's selling more than we could bring in right now. I mean, people are getting their stimulus checks and buying TIS wheels. It's crazy.
Yeah, we saw a very slight dip when this all started. I think it's pretty much everybody did in the beginning of this because of just the general uncertainty. And for the last, probably 2-3 weeks, we have been absolutely swamped at our warehouse with whether it's, dealers ordering truckloads, distributors ordering truckloads, or smaller shipments, whatever. We've been absolutely swamped with stuff going out the door. And I think you're right. It's the stimulus checks, people getting that money in it, whether or not, and at the end of the day, people will argue that you shouldn't be spending your money on rims and tires or this, but it's to stimulate the economy. It's not. And if it takes $1,500 to give people that sort of buying confidence back to buy maybe those impulse purchases, that's good. I mean, that's good for our industry. I mean, the industry needs to survive. We need to survive and put food on our tables too.
Well, I got in the car and I got into doing rims and all that stuff to stimulate the women. So if I use the stimulus check to stimulate the ladies with some nice rims, right?
That's how
Ugly
you get
guys
the
beat
power.
great looking cars, right? That's the power. That's the shit.
First you
I'm
get the
short and
power,
fast,
then
so
you
I
get the
needed,
women.
yeah. Well, yeah. I needed the nice car with rims and stuff to get the chicks. I mean, I'm an ugly guy, so it's that. So when you sit there at your house and you're lonely, you're like, dude, $1,500, I could have dinner by myself, or I could get the rims and then post it on Facebook and Instagram and Snap and TikTok and all that stuff, and get all these chicks to be like, that truck is sick, that car's hot. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a funny story. Back in the day when I worked at a shop called Modern Auto in Whittier. This was back in like 1991, 92. There was a customer that had a Lambo, and he ended up getting a divorce. So he came in and he's like, yo, you guys want to buy my Rolex? You want to buy this? And we're like, are you going to drop the car at a cheap price? And he's like, no, I'm keeping it. So he gave the wife the house. He sold all his watches, all that stuff to get cash. And he basically lived in the car for, I think it was almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And he would come by the shop and I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing? So he goes, dude, I'm living in the car. He goes, but not really. What girl wouldn't want a Lambo in her driveway or in the garage? So he just goes and meets these hot chicks, tells them and drives by these mansions that are under construction. And he says it's their house, his house, and it's under construction. Then he ends up just freeloading and staying at their houses for months until they figure it out. Then he just finds another one. So he was doing it for 2 years, and he didn't pay rent, didn't pay mortgages, got free food, and parked Lambos in garages, and that's it, and hooked up with hot chicks.
And TIS wheels.
Yeah. So I look at that, I'm like, dude, man, if this thing gets any worse, I'm just gonna sell everything and get a Lambo.
Yeah, just get out of everything and chances are, buy the right Lamborghini, be an appreciating asset too, so you'd be pretty good there as well.
Yeah.
So I guess if Myles, if you want to maybe get into a little bit about your early life and kind of what got you into the automotive industry, got you into the wheel industry a little bit. I think some people might find that kind of interesting. I think you have a pretty interesting story on that front.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I'm a street kid from East Los Angeles, and growing up, I was really into lowriding. I love lowriders and, the candy paints and the stripes and, the wire wheels and just all the colors. And I think part of that too was I was diagnosed at 11 years old with an eye disease called keratoconus. So I was almost legally blind in my left eye and losing my vision in my right. So I still could see lights and blurs, but I couldn't see. But I think what attracted to me to the cars was the shininess and the colors and all that stuff, because I could really see that. And then I saw these guys, like I said, with the best looking girls in the neighborhood. And I'm like, dude, this car stuff is like it. Like, you become the man when you got a nice car, and then it's aesthetically appeasing. Like, it makes you, and then it also makes you feel good. Makes you, it's like women go get breast augmentation, men go buy a nice car. That's the enhancement. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's all about. So I think that growing up, I saw that. I was like, that money, power, respect. And I was like, damn, like, I want that. I want that. And then I just love the technical aspect of wheels. Like, how do you put this rim on this car? And then, back in the day, nothing came out of the box to just fit the vehicle. Like, you had to modify even the rims, the bolt patterns. We're putting Porsche wheels on, trucks. We're putting, this on that. It was wild, wild west, and just trying to figure out. I mean, I remember back in 1992, I had a BMW E36, and I had some 18-inch OZs, Monte Carlos, that I got in and air freighted them in. And I air freighted the tires in from Europe, and they were 18-inch, and they were $550 a piece for an 225/40 18.
Wow.
You could get that tire for like $75 right now, or less, $59. But you're talking about a $500 tire. It's just one of those things where it wasn't as easy to customize as it is today, for sure. It wasn't as easy.
Yeah, I think Joe tells me all that about that all the time, and I'm sure he can weigh in because Joe, Mr. Tire Guy now, used to be Mr. Wheel Guy back in the day. I don't know
Yeah.
if you want to give a
Yeah.
little input on that, Joe.
That's what I was talking. I was talking to Collin the other day at work, and I'm like, yeah, you know what, man? Back in the day, honestly, like load ratings and load applications. Like my thing was, what's the biggest diameter, and can it fit? What do I have to cut? What's it's like make it fit? What's the biggest? That was it, you know. I remember having like 255 3022s on, and driving from like Chicago all the way to like West Virginia and stuff, you know, up into Maryland and stuff. And yeah, you know, like thin little sidewall, whatever, 22 by like maybe, I don't know, 9s, 8.5 or something like that, whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was the thing back then. Nowadays, though, you definitely need more tire with these roads, though, man.
Well, the real question is, do you, or are we just getting old and we're not as progressive? Because I see some of
Oh,
these young guys slamming it out still with little rubber bands and stuff. And, I think I'm just getting old, dude. My kids tell me I'm whack now. Like, I'm not cool. So,
You gotta slam
you
it and have your wheels at least this much camber.
yeah, I mean, I see that now. Like I said, I think, I thought about that too. Like, hey, is it just not the trend anymore, or am I just not in the trend anymore?
That's a good point.
So I'm
I
I'm gonna be.
personally
That's right.
don't understand the extreme camber. I understand if you want a little bit of camber. Like, are you trying to take off into space? Like, you have a hovercraft, they're gonna go flat and you're gonna fly away. Like, what's your objective there?
No, and that's yeah.
Go again.
No, and that's the thing about the wheels right now, that like the way you can express yourself, and like they are so different and crazy. But you got a good point, man. To me, I was like, oh, the trend's over. I'm like, actually, no, it's not. You're just not seeing them. Like, well, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I mean, when we started, we're young 20s or whatever. When I first started, I was 16. At 16, hell, I didn't care how it drove. I didn't care what the gas mileage was. I didn't care if it shaked. I didn't care if it didn't. I mean, barely made it home. I just wanted it to look good. Then as I get older, I'm like, wow, this car actually drives pretty good stock.
It's like whatever car you picked up.
Now that you're older, you're like looking at things like, how many cup holders does this have? Can I get a car seat in and out of the back easily? Like, it's not about that other performance kind of stuff.
And that's why too. Like I had exotics and all the sports cars and luxury cars and stuff. I drive trucks now, and it's just so much easier. Not worried about potholes. It still looks really bitchin'. There's so many parts and accessories for it. And then another thing is my passion is riding motocross. Yeah. So it's like you kind of need a truck to go motocrossing. Although I've been working on another project. I'm going to do a Prius C with a little trailer. That's going to be that motocross car that I take, because it's going to get. Or I'm going to do a Tesla 3 with a little trailer, and then I'll use that to go riding.
Would it be like one bike, or like two bikes, or like the little trailer?
I think. Well, I saw a guy that had two bikes, but usually it's just one bike because it's kind of heavy.
Oh,
yeah, but it has enough torque, and it has the tongue weight to hold probably 2 or 3 bikes, honestly.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I think if you talk about you have all the trucks now, and you used to have I did do a little research and saw that vehicle lineup when you were on Secret Millionaire for a few years back.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I had a lot of awesome cars and stuff, and people ask me all the time, like, dude, why don't you keep the Lambos, or what? It's like, honestly, I mean, growing up with just a lot of mental crisis and just a lot of stuff going on with me, I never enjoyed the cars. I mean, I really did it to make other people happy. Right now, the truck and the motocross stuff makes me happy. So finding out really makes me happy. I mean, even when I had the cars, they were on tour, in shows. I never got to really drive them and enjoy them, and I didn't feel like I deserved them. So it's one of those things, when you feel like you don't deserve something, it's miserable. It's not. And also, there's no way you're going to keep it. It's like a relationship. If you don't feel like you deserve your partner, you're going to lose that partner.
Yeah, I guess you did touch on it briefly. Do you want to kind of talk about how you said you have OCD and you've dealt with things like anxiety, how that has affected you in your career? Because I think especially now it's pretty timely with a lot of people who maybe didn't have anxiety or had what they believe to be pretty under control, and now a lot of people are struggling with past issues or issues they didn't realize they have. So I think that might be something that a lot of people are maybe looking for guidance on.
No, for sure. I mean, so I do a lot of speaking public about mental crisis and anxiety and stuff like that. And, so for me, I've had, massive panic attacks, anxiety and stuff. I mean, I wanted to commit suicide since I was 7. So I have a really conflicted mind. And a year and a half ago, my brother just committed suicide. So it's just, does it run in the family? I don't know. But, am I a little crazy? Absolutely. You need to be a little crazy to be creative. But just dealing with anxiety and the panic attacks and stuff, and then just kind of understanding what's going on. So there's this thing called Saturn's return. So when you're born, Saturn's in a certain place in the orbit. When you're 28, Saturn goes back to that location and it purges you of everything you know as a human being. So basically anything you like, emotions, not emotions, it just wipes you out, right? So that'd be a quarter life crisis, a midlife crisis on the Saturn's return. But what people don't understand is when it's transitioning to get to that point, you start feeling differently. It's not like it just changes. So when you start hitting your 18s and 20s, or you start hitting certain ages, or you're going to be 40, 50, you start feeling different. I mean, it's like, even to the point where it's like food tastes different. I was allergic to avocados, but now I could eat them. I used to hate this, but now I like it. It's all of that is part of the changes. So there's a significant thing that's happening that's out of our control, and it makes us feel out of control. So that's one thing. There's also, we're in a new planetary alignment. So the planets are in a certain alignment every 200 years, and it starts changing. So we're in the conscious phase. So it made everybody very conscious. And at first I thought, that's awesome. People are going to be very conscious. But it's actually hasn't been as good in the transition because it made everybody so damn emotional. So right now, everybody is ultra emotional, more than they ever been in their whole life. And they don't know why. So if you think about Saturn's return, the planetary alignment, all of those things, and then trauma, and you put those things together, that's the trifecta, that's the perfect storm. So you're going to go nuts if that's what's going on with you. Yeah. But if you look at it and say, well, this is happening to me because of Saturn's return, this is happening to me because of planetary alignment, and it's like being on, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? It's like, can I get the 50-50? So once you eliminate those two, then it's like, okay, here's the issue. And it always goes back to childhood trauma. Always goes back to childhood trauma. So for me, it was things that I saw, things that happened to me, just, everything, mental, physical, emotional abuse. That triggered me every time to feel not worthy or like I don't deserve something. Then it got me angry because I dealt with it with anger, not by actually dealing with it. So childhood trauma is going to be number one. So what I've been working on for the last 10 years is basically be okay with all of the childhood trauma that I have. And it's been very difficult. And I still get triggered by certain things and stuff like that. But it's about awareness, man. It's like I tell people, if that shoe fits, you got to wear it. So people have to start wearing the shoe that they got when they were little. And they got to get to know it and understand it and really enjoy it and get it out there. Most people are afraid to tell people what happened to them or what's going on with them because they're afraid people are going to judge them. But what's better, putting it out there and letting people actually judge you so you know whether they're one right people for you or not in your life, or holding it in and judging yourself? It's that judging yourself thing that creates all of these just feelings and animosity and nervousness and all of these things that are going on. So to me, it's called, I call it taking the poison out. You just got to start talking about all the things that bother you, all the things that hurt you. Because if you're not talking about them, all you're doing is suppressing it. It's like a hot, like a fire. The more you try to suppress it and smother it, the hotter it burns. And the next thing you know, it's like burning you down. So what I did also was I used the aggressiveness, the anger, the hurt, all of those things. And I used that, converted it, and used that to propel me in business. So we're all like nuclear reactors. So we all have that nuclear waste in us. And it's up to us whether we want to let it just sit there and burn us down or convert it and use it for good, usable energy. So it's like a tsunami or an earthquake or any of these devastating things. If we could bottle that energy, it can light up the world. But nobody's willing to bottle up that energy so they can light up the world. They just want to blame it on somebody else and not deal with what their issues are because, to be quite frank, it's too painful. It's very painful. But I promise you, once you talk about it more and more, it becomes less painful, honestly. And that's what I do. You know, I constantly talk to myself. I talk to people. I joke about it. I laugh about it. And there's two things that I really had to do. I had to learn how to love myself and laugh at myself. I couldn't do those two things. Once I was able to do that, it changed my life. It changed my life. And, you know, you got to try not to take things personal.
Yeah, I totally agree.
You know,
What you said about loving yourself and laughing at yourself is, I think it's important. And I think a lot of people take life too seriously, and that's not to, you know, downplay things that are important in life. And I think there are things in life that you need to take seriously, but you also need to realize that you're not perfect. You are who you are, and you need to be able to, you know, embrace the good times, laugh at the good times, but laugh at the bad times and embrace the bad times too. That's what life is. Nobody's life is perfect. I mean, like look at you. You've had a great, successful career, but it's not an easy journey. You didn't wake up and all of a sudden you're like, "Yep, that's it. I'm done. This is great. I've been successful. Look at that. It was so easy. I just snapped my fingers." That's not how it works. I think it's important that people realize that's not how it works, that it's a struggle. And all these people who may seem like they have it all together, nobody does. Nobody has it all together. And sometimes the people who look like they have it all together might be the worst off because they're not able to laugh at themselves, to express, like you said, get that poison out of them, because they're just putting on a show for everybody else.
Well, that's what it is. You know, trauma, a lot of trauma is shame, right? So what's the difference between guilt and shame?
I don't know. What is the difference between guilt and shame?
Then yourself.
Guilt is when it's broken.
Yourself.
Shame is when I'm broken. So shame is what creates suicide. Shame what creates anxiety. Shame, not guilt. When people feel guilty, they don't kill themselves. When they feel shameful, they kill themselves.
Yeah.
And that's usually due to some type of trauma that makes them feel shameful, not guilty.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if I forgot to take out the trash, I'm going to feel a certain way. But if something happened to me when I was 5 years old that makes me feel shameful, that's going to basically affect me for the rest of my life. And, you know, it's really understanding that, like I said, most people that have trauma, unfortunately, like me, I developed a lot of defense mechanisms to protect myself. So it's hard to get people that have all these defense mechanisms to just put them down and be vulnerable. It's impossible because they survived by putting up all these walls and all of these things to protect them. So now you're saying, hey, take down all the things that protected you to get to here now and run out there naked today and be okay with it. It's a tough transition.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge that I think, and that's not an overnight thing either. It's progressive. It's taking the baby steps, and small steps make big changes. And I think that's important for people to realize that they need to. You're never going to get to the finish line if you don't start walking towards it. And I think that's what people need to focus on, and need to realize that you need to maybe not use those defense mechanisms to hide yourself, but create coping mechanisms to help transition to a different way of looking at things.
No, for sure. I mean, it just, you know, again, I've been on top of all that trauma. I've been blind 3 times in my left eye, lost a little bit of vision for a little bit in my right eye, you know, and at different times, thank God, because if I would have lost both eyes, I would have been disabled, you know, and again, I could see lights and stuff. So it's not like I'm just seeing black, but, you know, try going blind. You know, try being out there in nightclubs and concerts and all these other areas without being able to see. I mean, I was like a hurt animal. It's like I was, you know, my fight or flight is like on 24/7 because I'm injured, you know? So it's like you're sitting there and you're just pissed off and just so upset and just getting so much anxiety. and it's tough. I mean, I deal with it still to this day. I mean, obviously I cope with it a lot better because now I'm like, why am I feeling a certain way? Is this bothering me? Let me go tell everybody about it. And that's what I've been doing. And it's been really, it's honestly, it saved my life.
Yeah, that's incredible to have to. I couldn't even imagine just, waking up one day and being blind in one eye, or, like you said, thank God it wasn't, all of a sudden you wake up and you're just blind in both eyes. That would be a terrible thing to have to deal with.
And the first time when I was diagnosed with a blindness, or, legally blind, dude, I was playing baseball. I was riding motocross. I was playing basketball. I was doing everything, riding BMX, skating. As soon as the doctor diagnosed, I stopped doing everything. I thought I was a victim. And then about a year later, I said, dude, you know what? I just got to do what I got to do. So every time I've been blind, and I got 2 cornea transplants and all this other stuff and procedures and stuff like that. So, but every time I still worked, I still went to school, I still rode motocross, I still skated, I still BMX, everything, because that's what makes greatness, right? Is the ability to go in there and push yourself through whatever is going on and just basically over deliver on everything. I mean, like Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. He was a phenomenal basketball player, but part of it was he did pre-practice, went to team practice, and then did post-practice. And he put a lot of time and effort into his craft. So if we put that kind of time and effort into our craft, we could be the best in the world. And part of people's anxiety is they know they need to do something, but they can't get off their ass. And that's really what creates a lot of anxiety for people. They need some change. So I think it's like 29 times of doing something. So say if I'm eating bad, but I eat healthy 29 times, that becomes a habit.
Yep.
90 times becomes a lifestyle change, right? So if you think about that, it's like you're racing to the 90, you're racing through the 29. You're not sitting there and just kind of doing it. You're racing towards those numbers. It's no difference in sales. They said statistically it takes 200 no's to hear a yes. So when my son was a teenager, I told him, let me break it down for you. It's all about the numbers. So you're going to have to hear 200 no's to hear a yes. So when you're in the club and you're old enough to go to the club and you want to hook up with chicks, stand by the bathroom and talk to every girl that walks by. Out of the 200 chicks, one of them is going to go home with you. Okay? Play the numbers. Don't buy no drinks. Just stand right there, talk to every chick, and you're gonna get lucky. Play the numbers.
Until one of the chicks goes to the bouncer. Yeah, there's this weird guy who's been standing by the bathroom all night asking every girl who walks out.
Dude, I bet I used to promote clubs and we used to do parties that I still see it. I still see guys hanging out of the bathroom, They're not as slick, what I'm saying, as like what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like mentally going in there like a ninja and go after it. You know what I'm saying? These guys are just drunk and falling all over. I mean, I'll stand there with water so I'm sober and I'll just go and look for the opportunities. I'm a lion, bro. I'm looking for that and hunting constantly, So it's really, again, playing the numbers. It's understanding that. So in sales, it's called racing through the no's. It's like you're sitting there and it's like, dude, no. Most people hear a couple no's, they get depressed. I hear no's, I'm like, damn, okay, yeah, all right. Well, how do I adjust it so I could hear that? Yeah.
You're getting closer to the yes.
Yeah, and that's what it is, right? So when I first started doing deals with, like, say, GM and Chrysler and all these big Fortune 500 companies, Procter & Gamble, Budweiser, Pepsi, they would say no to everything. And then I would go back and I would take some of their no's and then give them logical explanations on what we can do or solutions. And then I went back so much that they got to know me, but I went back every time and took away their excuses till they actually said, you know what, I guess we have to do something with you because you've taken away all our excuses. But most people would have went there once, got turned away and never went back. You've got to be resilient. You got to be able to say, look, I'm going to learn how to do this and I'm going to take your criticism and I'm going to go and do something with it. Every great design or any business I've started or anything I've done is through criticism and taking it and molding it to give the people what they want. And that's just, like what I call business 101 in today's climate. 10, 20 years ago, you build it and you shove it down their throat. Now you got to build what they want.
Yeah, and I think it's just the same thing about, networking too. It's you can't just it's creating that repetitiveness and being in front of people and talking to different people. It's not about, yep, I'm going to go out and apply for jobs and I'm just going to send out a bunch of applications. No, it's you becoming and working with that person to make something that they want. And it's not about just, going through the motions.
I mean, every time I wanted to do something, I did, I went to go work for free on my spare time. So the car stuff, I started volunteering at a local shop for free, and then they hired me as a driver. If I didn't go there and work for free, they would never hire me as a driver. In other businesses, like I want to go and learn something. It's like, dude, I'm going to work for free. I've been staying at home and I've been cooking. I really enjoy cooking. So I'm thinking about asking some of the people that I know that have restaurants to let me go and intern there for free. And so I can learn that business and understand cooking and how the kitchens work and just the whole culinary experience. I mean, and that's really what it is. If you really want to do something, I would do it for free. I mean, I do what I do every day. I would do it for free because I love it. But you know what? I want to get paid, but I love it. But if I was in the beginning, like I said, and I've done that, I've sanded body kits and worked at body shops and worked at rim shops and did this and that and for free, even investing my own money for gas just to get the opportunity to be around something that I love.
I think people undervalue the value of experience and the value of getting to shadow somebody who is so gifted or talented in their craft, what you can learn from those people and how there's so much more to get from a job or volunteering than just money. Like there's that experience, and I think that's often undervalued by people. Then they just go in there, I'm here for the money, I'm going to leave. No, open your eyes and take in what's happening around you and use that to learn and be a better person and take that with you in life, whether it's to your next job or your personal life or whatever. And I think a lot of people don't value that.
Well, I mean, I hear this all the time. It's like people always call me and be like, dude, I just got let go of my job, or I hate my boss and my manager sucks and he's picking on me, blah, blah, blah. And then they call me and they go, dude, I just lost my job. I said, well, I'm a business owner for the last 20 something years. I've never fired anybody I needed. So you got to make yourself valuable. If you weren't valuable and you're also making enemies with your bosses, you know what? It's inevitable. You're going to get let go. So it's one of those things. You've got to be valuable. There's employees that I've not liked much, but were so valuable that, I tolerated it because they were so valuable. But if there's somebody that rubs me the wrong way and they're not valuable, that's not acceptable.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think a lot of people don't look at it from both sides of the table. It's a value exchange. Anything in life is, and working at a job, it's that value exchange. You have to look at, what do you bring to the table that's different from somebody else, that's different from some other person your employer could pluck off the street? What makes you unique? And if you can't come up with that, chances are it's going to be probably pretty hard for your employer to do that too. So I think, like you said, having that important, unique quality and branding yourself, defining yourself as you and why you're important is important. And a lot of people don't put enough value on that in their life.
Well, yeah, I think that. And then also too, people put too much value on themselves. But again, it's a defense mechanism. It's all about trauma. It's all about trauma. When you have trauma, you can't bow down. You can't be considered weak. You can't do this. You can't show face. You can't. It's disgusting when you really break it down on all of these, again, defense mechanisms or things that we do just to try to protect our image or protect ourselves. Once we're aware of that and we can make some of those changes, I mean, life is much easier than the way we usually try to live it.
Yeah. So to go kind of back to a little bit more of the entrepreneurship side, you've started, like you listed off, a lot of different companies, a lot of different ventures. Dub is probably one of the earliest and most recognizable. So what was kind of your biggest inspiration for Dub Magazine? Can you pinpoint a certain moment in your head where you're like, man, I got this great idea, and then I have to just pull it all together and make it happen?
So when I was working at Modern Auto and doing all that stuff at the shop, all these rappers and musicians and basketball players and celebrities and stuff would come in and get their cars fixed up by us, you know? So I had all these relationships, and I knew a lot of these guys. Like, it was like Pac and Dre and, you know, all the Death Row guys with Suge Knight, Jewel, Nate Dogg, Cypress Hill, Melloman Ace, Kid Frost. I mean, you know, this was back in the day. But having all these relationships, and then I left the automotive industry for 2 years to go work in the music industry. I got a label deal when I was 21. And then I produced with my partners a song called Café con Leche by El Presidente.
Nice.
Was the artist. So it's a Spanish house song. So I was one of the guys on the production team, and I owned the label that put out that song. And then we put out other songs at the time. So we had a hit record. So it was on Power 106, you know, in LA. It was on TTU in New York. It was on Kiss FM. And it was on all the stations. And it was a 100% Spanish song. It was the first 100% Spanish song to get full rotation on all the non-urban stations.
Wow.
In the U.S. So it's like, it was dope. So I got that experience and all that stuff. And then, you know, the whole deal fell apart. You know, because I got a $1.5 million deal when I was 21. I didn't know what to do. You know, I got the Rolex, I got a Benz, a Porsche, and this and that. And, you know, they gave me $1.5 million, but I didn't know it was going to cost $3 million to run the company. So there's all these politics and all these other things that happen. So we ended up losing the record, losing the opportunity. I cried for one day. And then a buddy of mine had a nightclub newsletter. And then I went to work for him and basically got part of the company, and then took that into a national magazine. And then we started doing concerts. So one of the concerts that we did was called the Cypress Hill Smokeout, 66,000 people. You know, we had Jack from Rage Against the Machine, System of a Down, you know, all of these, you know, different just groups and hip hop and, you know, Red and Meth and this and that. And, you know, just, it was a big marijuana festival. I mean, this was before it was legal, right? But I was having massive anxiety and panic attacks at that time too, because of the whole weed thing and all that stuff. And I was smoking, drinking and partying every night. And that's when I was in Vegas. And this is going to answer the question that you asked. I just want to kind of give a little bit of background.
This is awesome.
I was in Vegas at the Magic Show, which was the fashion convention. And it was like, just finished the club. It was probably 3 a.m. or something like that. And I turn on the TV and there's this car auction on. And there was a white Mercedes S500. It had Rentec engine, Lorenzo body kit, Lorenzo wheels. It was sick. I mean, it was a sick Benz, you know. And I was watching the show, and I'm tired, and I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, and the TV's right there. And they go, this celebrity car is owned by this celebrity, and it's going to sell for double the price of the car because it's owned by the celebrity. And I'm thinking, what celebrity? I missed the intro. So I was like, dude, what celebrity owns this car? You know? And then and I'm thinking, dude, this car's sick. It's, you know, Lorenzo body kit, Lorenzo wheels, lowered Rentec engine, S500 done up, you know? And they go, sold, you know, I'm like, and they're like, the celebrity's Alan Jackson. And I said, who the hell is Alan Jackson? You know? So I thank Alan Jackson, the country music singer, because without that night and that auction, Dub wouldn't have existed, because that's what gave me the idea to put celebrities with cars, was watching that auction.
Alan Jackson, baby.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy, because I guess nobody ever thinks, Dub and Alan Jackson, that's a match made in heaven right there.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so true, and it you know, and that's one of those things I tell people. You never know when you're going to be influenced and what you're going to be influenced by. But if you're not making yourself available, you will never get the influence. You got to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
You got to go see stuff and take it, you know, and do all these things. But yeah, that's what gave me the concept to start Dub Magazine.
Well, yeah, I don't think I could have guessed that if that was a trivia question on Jeopardy. I don't think I would have gotten that one. The artist that inspired Dub Magazine. I think I would not have said, what is Alan Jackson?
and the execution of it, about like the whole half and half thing, you know, like that's pretty cool too. That's pretty slick, man. I don't think nobody else is doing that I remember.
But, so it's taking those type of opportunities. And when we started the company, I mean, no one believed that it was going to work. I mean, no one believed that it was going to work. I mean, it was a battle, just convincing people that it was the trend and it was going to start moving, and then, just kind of, took off. I mean, there was times like when we first started, I mean, our two biggest sponsors were Mid-O Tire and KMC, and then as we progressed, as we progressed, Mid-O and KMC both left us. And the main guy from Mid-O told me, Myles, we're at a lunch, and he's explaining that they weren't going to support us anymore. And he said, Myles, you're sitting on a gold mine and you don't know how to dig. He told me that.
Wow.
And then, then they want to try to partner with people that were competing against us that eventually went out of business.
Yeah.
Right. And then I went back to them saying, hey, I learned how to dig. Can you guys come back and partner with us? And we're partnering with them again. So,
nice.
And thank God I learned how to dig, because maybe that was what I need, that kick in the ass to say, hey, dude, you're onto something, but you're not doing it right. But I think part of it is it's not easy, man. And a lot of people like the bullshit. So a lot of people were telling him what he wanted to hear when I knew what it took to make it happen. And it wasn't going to be that easy.
Yeah. It's
logistics and execution. I think a lot of people take for granted because like things just magically come together. Never do. No. And like they never see people behind the scenes and who's doing all the work and organizing and communicating and, and all that stuff. And I think like the dub shows, like they are kind of pivotal. I think because like if they're in your area and you're doing them, like you should be doing them. That's where a lot of people are going. Like I look forward to them. They have them here at the speedways and all that stuff. And like that's, I don't know, man. It's a fun time for everyone to get together for sure.
Well, and that's what it is, So we're trying to create things that people want to talk about, people want to get together about, and that's what it's about. It's about evoking emotion. Products. You want them to look at the car and go, "Wow, that's really cool." Or oh, how'd you do this? Or you want that, just that emotional tie or that emotion to come out when they see it. I mean, it's like a car is like a beautiful woman. Everyone can appreciate it. Little kids, old people. Black, white, purple, yellow, red, brown, whatever. Like it's just, you see a beautiful woman and it's like, she's hot. You see a beautiful car and it's like, dude, that's hot.
Going to a car show. Those are always good memories, man. Those are always good memories.
Yeah.
I mean, the car shows, obviously with this pandemic and stuff, are going to change. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we're working on different models and stuff like that on doing different types of shows. And, we have a virtual show too now on the website so people can actually register and stuff. And, it's really just keeping it moving, man. It's like whenever there's that hurdle in front of you, think of that opportunity. I mean, most greatest inventions came out of necessity. So I think if people would have just looked at that and stopped feeling sorry for themselves, and this sucks, but what's cool about this is it sucks for everybody. So then it's an equalizer, right? It's kind of like when the economy crashes and I go, you go broke, I go broke. If the economy crashes and everybody goes broke, then I don't feel so bad. But if the economy is doing really good and I'm going broke, it's just me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot easier to take it when everybody's affected by it, I guess. But right now there's tremendous time for opportunities. I mean, with our TIS wheel sales being up 40%, in the last 90 days, we had 23 million impressions to our social media. 23 million impressions. But again, that's the hard work that we've put in over the last X years to get to that point to where we're at today. So it's like, I tell people, you want to do good in 2 years, start now, because that's how long it takes to do good. I have a hard time dieting. I love to eat. I'm one of those guys that just love to eat.
Yeah.
So it's like, every time I try to diet, I'm like, it just doesn't work for me. And I travel a lot. Right before the shutdown, I was in 6 different countries traveling. So it's like, I tell people I probably had COVID already 3 times. I mean, no joke. I was sick when I came back from China. I was sick when I came back from Australia. I was sick when I came back from Greece. So it's like one of those things where it's like, you never know what's going to happen. But dude, try putting in all those mileage. Sitting in the airport waiting, no sleep, to get on your next plane, doing interviews and doing news and live TV. It's a lot of work. And then you still got to run the business, the day-to-day, the emails and all the communications during that time. So again, it takes a certain person that's willing to go out there and be disciplined to be able to go out there and not basically make lists, checklists, and just check constantly.
Yeah, I guess that leads into one of the other things I thought we could talk about, how you manage your, not only your work-life balance, but like your work balance, because you have yourself in so many different realms. How do you find time to designate and focus on so many different projects that you're working on?
It's one of those things. I think my ADD and all that other stuff kicks in. So it's like I'm able to kind of juggle different things. But I'm constantly thinking, I'm working on it. So even if I'm not in a meeting, I'm still thinking about it. I'm still trying to figure it out. And that's what people need to do. It's not one of those things where you just step out and it's like, oh, let me take this hat off and put this. No, you're wearing those hats constantly and you're just juggling. So think about this. If you're in New York City and there's traffic, the traffic doesn't go like this. It flows like this, right? You go in LA traffic's like this. So if you're a human being or a car, when you flow like this, you're using less energy because you're not braking, you're not accelerating, you're just kind of driving smoother. When you're braking and accelerating, that's when you're using up all your energy. So I envision myself just working on projects like this instead of going like this.
Yeah.
Right. And then also too, psychologically, what I also did was I had to figure out, like, when did my family need me the most? Is it for dinner? Is it in the mornings? Is it this? Is it that? Right. So most of the time it's like dinners or basketball games or this or stuff like that. So what I started doing was I started leaving the office early, or at the end of the day, 5 o'clock, whatever, go home, spend time with my family. When everybody goes to sleep, I work until 4 in the morning. So I was up till 4 in the morning last night. So I usually work till 3 or 4 in the morning every day, including the weekends. And that's how I could get everything done. And I get to spend time with my kids, my wife, my dogs, my family, my parents, my siblings, because I make time. And it's because I'm willing to stay up till 4 a.m. to make the time. So there's sometimes where I get to sleep 10 hours a day, and there's times when I sleep 2 or 1 or no sleep. And that's just the way it works. But I've been doing that for so long, that's my normal. But that's how I'm able to juggle everything. So if my kids say, hey, we really need you to be here, I'll make it there, but I'm going to go back to work, or I'm going to go and, work virtually or whatever. Even when I'm on vacation, I'm constantly working. I love working. I'm a workaholic.
Yeah. And I'm going to jump in quick. We got Michael Akins over here in the comments talking about some tires. For a few questions, you say you had some issues with 2 tires. You had a belt break on you and you were towing a trailer. Again, it's very hard to diagnose issues over the phone, and I understand that it's frustrating, but there's a warranty process that we have, and I mean, you just said in the comments to come pick up the tires and give your money back. There's processes we have in place to serve customers, and you'll have to, a dealer on the ground is best suited to look at your problem. So that would be your best course of action, to visit an authorized Atturo dealer, and then they will assist you through the warranty process. We are here to help as much as you can and help facilitate that conversation with the dealer and help be that catalyst, especially if there's a preferred shop you'd like to go to. We're willing to work with that shop. But I'd also like to ask what vehicle you were running, what kind of truck, what kind of tire, what size, what rim specs were you running, because that stuff all does come into account. So I'd like to kind of see if you don't mind maybe posting a little bit of that in comments, we could take a look and see what your problem was, because the majority of the time, I'm not saying that it's your case here, but a lot of times, a lot of the failures we see in the tires is because of misapplications or improper applications. Like Joe said, people don't care about load ratings. That's just 3 numbers at the end of the tire. So I think a lot of the time is you need to look at your load ratings, your rim width, your tire specs. And I think a lot of the times we're working on educating shops and helping them realize, hey, what's a misapplication, what's not a misapplication, And if you want to sell those misapplications, that's fine, but you're running them and selling them at your own risk. So half the tread's raised about 2 inches over the rest of the tread. That to me sounds like you have some sort of suspension alignment issue. Just off the top of my head, you saying that the tread's not wearing you. F250 trail blades. What trail blades? What size? The trail blade is a series, not a tire. So if you want to email them with that information, they can help you. If not, Joe's watching the chat, and if you can get that information back in there and fully enough for us to kind of see what's going on, we may be able to give you a hand there. But I think people need to understand that while it's difficult to deal with sometimes, and there is a warranty process, there is a warranty process, and things have to go through protocols and procedures. And while it is unfortunate and it's hard to deal with sometimes from an individual perspective, you need to go through this process, and you need to do it because of the way we do things. And that's just how it works. People sometimes get a little frustrated by that, and I get it because I've been on the other end of that. But you have to see it from our perspective. We can't just, one person sends an email with no pictures, no proof, nothing, and we can't just refund money. So we do have a warranty department to handle that stuff. Joe will try to help you in the comments as best as he can. We're, again, not warranty people, but we can try to help as best we can. But calling our warranty department, calling our corporate office, sending an email to warranty at Atturo will be your best course of action, and they can help you better than we can. So to go back to our conversation, Myles, one of the things I thought is a fun thing to ask people: what is one interesting thing that most people don't know about you?
So the most interesting thing that people don't know about me was one of my traumas, right? So I was born with only one testicle. So I had one ball. So I felt half a man. I thought that's why I wanted to commit suicide since I was 7. So a lot of people don't know that about me, and it bothers me psychologically, bothers me mentally, bothers me emotionally. So aside from being blind 3 times, I've had one testicle my whole life, and it just sucks. But at least I have one that works.
Yeah, it's true.
It gets proven.
So, but yeah, that's an interesting fact that a lot of people don't know about me that has really affected my life in a really negative way for a long time.
Yeah. So what would you say in your career of many different avenues and aspects, what would you say would be one of the things you're most proud of, or one of like a capstone moment in your career, so to speak, at least up to this point? I don't want to limit you, as maybe you haven't reached that moment yet, but up to this point, what would you say it is?
I think there was kind of 2 pivotal moments for Dub. One was doing the MTV shows and stuff with MTV, the Cribs and the Rip Rides and Dubs edition. The biggest one was putting Latrell Sprewell on there with the Spinners. I mean, that just catapulted Dub magazine to the next level. I mean, it was just amazing. And the other one from a business perspective was because we used to do our show across the street from SEMA at the beach. So we did the party, we did the cars and stuff there. When we actually partnered with SEMA and started working with them, that was the big legitimizer for our company. And was it easy? No, it wasn't easy. It was very difficult. Was it a compromise? Absolutely. But it helped us from a business credibility standpoint more than anyone can imagine.
Yeah, I think that's a good lesson for a lot of people, is that sometimes you have to make sacrifices, at least in the short term, or what appears to be sacrifices, to get you to that next level. And while it may suck for some people, while it may suck in the meantime that you don't, have that control, that what you don't have that control in the short term, but you are gaining that legitimacy, like you said. You're moving forward, you're progressing, you're playing that kind of long game to do it. So I think that's the thing people need to take from that. So what are your plans that you can share for SEMA this year in terms of Dub, in terms of displays? You got anything new and interesting in the pipeline?
Well, our total area is about, I think, 85,000 square feet. Last year, just on our wheels alone, we had 155 vehicles. So we're planning on doing about the same this year. Same booth space, same vehicles, spots. We're going to debut probably about 50, I think more than that, 80 new trucks like that have never been seen before,
Wow.
Listed and stuff like that. Personally, I'm excited. I just got a Ford Ranger. And, you know, people are like, well, dude, get a Raptor or this or that. But
we have one of those too. We just recently got one of those too.
So, yeah. So, and, you know, for me, I never wanted a Ford Ranger, but we have a customer in Thailand that buys a lot of wheels from us. And somebody out there developed a Raptor kit for the Ranger. So it's a full wide body. It takes F-150 headlights, F-150 taillights. It makes it look like a mini Raptor, like a real Raptor, not the Raptor version of the Ranger that you could see in Australia or Asia and things like that. This looks like, so I ordered the kit. It'll be here in 30 days. So I'm going to have the first Ranger Raptor looking truck that's going to probably be 500 horsepower in the U.S. So I plan on having that at SEMA this year. So I'm pretty pumped. And you'll see my dirt bike in the back when it's up there.
Oh, well, I'm gonna scrap in our Ranger build because it's not gonna have.
But what kind of like?
It's not even that. I thought we had a great Ranger build planned, and we've just been shown up. Ours just went to the body shop.
Can I at least
get some stuff put on it, and I was like really excited, and then you're like, yeah, this is just gonna be way cooler.
Well, at least can we what wheel size are you kind of going with? Can you share that maybe like with
wheel and tire size?
I have two sets of wheels that I'm making. One's a 22 by 12, and the other one's a 17 by 9.
For trails and for sure.
So I'll have two different looks going on that I'll be showing and doing different stuff with. So I'm making some custom forged one-off rims for myself. What's interesting is just with the fender flares and leveled 2.5 inches, I'm putting some King coilovers on there from King and Camberg arms. But with the King 2.5 inch and the fenders, it clears a 35 without rubbing.
Yeah,
we're 17s obviously. Yeah,
we are looking to do. We have the 3-inch Fox coilovers in the front, the 2.5, the big Foxes, and we did a 1.5 inch block in the rear to lift up the rear a little bit too. And I think we're going to try to fit something a little bigger than 35s on there with the fenders we're running. We'll see. I don't know if it's going to work or not.
But he's towing the trailer and stuff like that too. So that is good actually. That is going to go like 35s probably, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, on the stock fender, getting a 35 under the stock fender, I don't think so.
No.
We got some different fenders on it. So
you have some wide fenders coming?
Yeah, well, they're going on. We got the some fiberglass fenders that we're putting on there. So
yeah,
fenders and bed
my last truck was a Tacoma. Yeah, so with the bed sides you could put them on there for sure. I had Fiberworks on my Tacoma. They were good.
Yeah, so we'll see. It's I'd like to see like a 37 or a 38 on there maybe. I don't know. That's going to be pushing it because I still want a little bit of suspension travel, but I've seen some Rangers on some of the South American ones, at least. I've seen them on 39s and 40s. So we'll see. I don't know if I'm going to go that crazy with the suspension, but we'll that will hopefully be at SEMA in our booth this year. So maybe we'll have to get some pictures of both the Rangers after SEMA or something out there.
Are you going to keep the trailer tires stock or no? The trailer tires are going to stay stock, or are you going to lift the trailer up too?
On the trailer, the one that I'm doing, we're working on new trailer wheels right now.
Nice.
So we'll have some custom trailer wheels on there.
17s probably, or
17s probably. Yeah.
Yeah, would be nice, man.
But
we have. What was that?
But after SEMA, got to get the Rangers together. See how many. I think maybe this year will be the year of the Rangers, since the Gladiators had their year last year. Maybe the Rangers will get their year this year.
Go like to the lake.
I don't know. I still think it's going to be Gladiator City again at SEMA. I mean, it's just such a popular vehicle.
True.
I'm curious if we'll see as many Supras as we did this past year.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think, it's kind of already done. So I think that market's going to move on to something else. And I think you're going to just start seeing a lot more retro cars, like early 80s, mid 80s, early 90s, oh, yeah. I mean, all the Japanese stuff, the Honda Civics and all that stuff. You're going to start seeing a lot more old school Hondas and Toyotas, I think, in the sport compact areas.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting to see how SEMA is reflective of the industry as a whole and reflective of the current automotive culture, especially when you look at, like, last year was literally the Gladiator Super Show. I don't think I could walk 5 feet in any direction and not see one of those things in the entire show, which, for better or for worse, I mean, the Gladiator is a great vehicle, and I think it's still going to dominate that mid-sized truck market only because of what you're getting for that sort of platform, that sort of thing, like compared to the Tacomas or the Rangers or anything else in that size spec. I don't think anyone's going to touch the Gladiator for a while unless these guys are seriously going to up their game or Ford's going to bring the actual Ranger Raptor to the United States. I don't think there's going to be any serious competition. What are your thoughts on the Ranger? Because I don't know as just a vehicle in general compared to, I guess, because you had the Tacoma. Because I personally think that Ford, in some aspects of it, really kind of dropped the ball in terms of, especially on the interior and fit and finish.
As you wear your Ford racing hat, Ford performance hat, you're bashing Ford. Good job, Bill.
Yeah,
there you go.
I'm not sponsored, so I can give the true, honest opinions.
And now back to our sponsor, Ford. I'll be quite frank with you. I mean, all the cars look good. One of my pet peeves with the Ford is obviously interior. It feels not as plush as the Toyotas and GMs and some of the cars, in my opinion, and the Dodges. But my pet peeve with the Ford, the Ranger especially, is when you close the door, that hollow sound. That drives me nuts.
You know what's funny? Every time Joe gets in so Joe drives the Jeep all the time. And every time he gets into the Ranger, he like slams the door because it's so much lighter. And then he's like, "Oh my God, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was every time." So that's funny that you say that you feel the same way.
Dude, yeah, that's a big thing. But when I rip my truck apart, I'm gonna dynamite the doors and all that stuff to take that like kind of feeling away. But that's my pet peeve. When I get out of the car and I shut the door, I'm in the car and I close the door. It's like, dude, that is so shitty.
It's like, boom.
Come on. Yeah, that is shitty. Everything else, like the dashboard, the stereo, the function, it's much better than it's ever been. I think the dashboard material looks cheap, but definitely the doors, man. I go nuts when that door slams or I'm closing it. It's just,
I think
no bueno.
My biggest gripe, I think, with the Ranger is the fact that Ford has set the bar so high with the F-150. The F-150, I mean, best-selling vehicle in America. They've set that bar in terms of what you're going to expect from Ford a truck. And when I first got in the Ranger, probably 2 years at the Chicago Auto Show, maybe it was 3 years ago, I sat and I was like, this feels like a base Fusion. This doesn't even feel like a nice F-150. And I just think for the price that they're asking for these things, I would have expected a little bit more in terms of fit and finish overall.
No, I agree with you. I think it's more refined than they've ever done before.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you, if I didn't get that Raptor wide body conversion kit, I would not be driving a Ranger.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if it wasn't for that, that's what made me go, dude. And then I got a great lease through the Ford. I mean, I got an insane lease on it. So between the deal I got and the Raptor kit that I'm putting on there, that's the only reason why I drive it and I tolerate those shitty doors. But, hopefully I'm going to fix that. If not, I'm going to rebuild the doors or something to just make them better.
Yeah. So I think it's I'm curious to see how long it sticks around because Ford's announced they're building an even smaller truck for the U.S. market. Like, I don't even know how you're going to sell something smaller than the Ranger, but I mean, we'll see if that, if it progresses, if it sticks around, I feel like it might just be a stepping stone for them in terms of maybe they're just going to keep it around for a little bit and then get rid of it soon and go on to something else.
I think they're going to refine it, right? So it's still new. I think the next rendition, the grills, the headlights, all of those things, if they're listening right now, if they make those changes for the next rendition, then it's going to give it more life because people could update their older one. But most importantly, dude, everyone wants to drive a little Raptor. Just make little Raptors. You know, that's it. Make a little Raptor or smaller F-150. Yeah. That's what people want. I mean, that's, you know, by doing that, you know, you're capturing the market. But I don't know why car companies feel like if we can't make it look as good. If it's 35,000, we can't make it look as good as the 50,000.
Yeah.
Then nobody's going to buy the 50. It's like, dude, make them all look good, because what differentiates the person is the actual price they can afford, not whether they want the 50 or the 35. Make them both look good. But I don't know, for some reason, especially in my opinion, the American auto companies, they like to make the lower one look cheaper. And it's like, dude, it costs the same amount of money to make it look good as it does to make it look bad.
I wonder if it comes down. I mean, I totally agree that I think if you're getting a cheap car, you shouldn't be short on the fact that you're going to get something super cheap looking and not like it could still look good and be affordable. I wonder if more of that just comes down to margins, because I'd imagine they're making higher margins on those cheaper cars than those more expensive cars, maybe, because if they're using the nicer materials. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think they're also just catering to the market that just is happy with it. Right. They're not picky like we are. So we're a little pickier. I got one thing. The car of the show this year is going to be the Corvette. And that car looks amazing, and it's still very affordable. The new Corvette is going to be the hot ticket at SEMA this year.
Yeah, I could see that, the C8 being the hot ticket, but is there going to be enough aftermarket support for enough people to have them like in their booths? Is it going to be?
Dude, I think Chevy made 2,000 of them. I bet you 500 of those 2,000s will be at SEMA on rims and all that stuff. I mean, the car is amazing. The car is sick.
Yeah, I think it's kind of incredible what they've done with that, and with moving simply by moving the engine to the mid, making it a mid engine, and changing. I mean, it's not really a Corvette anymore. They've fundamentally changed what that car is, for better, for worse. You're gonna piss off the purists, obviously, but I think what they've made is great.
It's a $50,000 supercar. Come on,
yeah,
like that's what dude. They're gonna kill it with that because that's what people want.
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see because they started production just before all this happened with the pandemic. So it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back and how that affects those sales numbers, because I wonder if a ton of people are going to go out and want to, even though it's cheap, a Corvette probably isn't the most smart purchase to make at this time.
Dude, everybody I know that can afford 50, 60,000 is wanting to buy that car. Yeah. If they made 50,000 of them right now, they could sell all of them, guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Yeah, maybe.
SEMA, man, that's going to be fun. That's going to be nice to the setups on those.
The C8, yeah, C8 at SEMA. I think you're right, Joe. So I'm moving down my show notes here over here. I guess, Myles, what would be one of the coolest or most fun things you've gotten to do during your career?
You know, I think it just comes back to, you know, traveling and meeting people all over the world that have the same passion of vehicles and, you know, stuff like that. I think that's been really, really significant and probably number one. You know, I got to do some cool stuff. Like I raced in the Baja 1000 in 2005.
Oh, snap.
In a car. Yeah. So I had no off-road experience, but motocross. So I never drove a car, and I'm not a race car guy. Like I've never really raced cars, but they threw me in the car, and, you know, no, I didn't pre-run or anything. It was one of the scariest things I've ever done, you know, but, you know, just to be able to say that I drove in the Baja 1000 and our car finished is, you know, that's an elite group of people, you know?
Wow. Yeah. How did that come about? That you got to I mean, there's got to be a backstory there. Yeah, I just wound up in Baja 1000. What was the backstory of that?
Well, so there was a couple of teams that said, hey, we got, we could put you in a car, and I'm like, I'm not going to sit in the passenger seat going 140 miles an hour with some trophy truck driver. So I bluffed them. I said, if you get me a car to drive, I'll be there. And then next thing you know, they got the car. And I was like, dude,
I don't have my suit.
And then I was traveling and all that stuff. So I didn't even get a pre-run. So I didn't even know how to start the car, when I got there. And then next thing you know, in the morning, I was the second driver in the car. So I saw the start, went in a chase vehicle, a van, went to the next checkpoint, and they threw me in the car, and I'm racing with all these professional racers. And the first thing I seen was a vehicle flipped over with a pro driver in it. I'm thinking, dude,
oh, no.
this sucks. Yeah. And then you're going down these roads and, there's jumps and everything, and it's lined with people. And all these people are standing out there. I'm like, yo, if you guys knew who was driving this car, you would get the hell out of the way, because I'm about to take everybody out because I didn't know how to control it. I didn't even know how to control the car. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man.
That's marketing, baby.
Yeah, that's some marketing right there. Wow.
So King of the Hammers is next, is what you're saying.
Yeah, King of the Hammers next.
Yeah, the Hammers. If you're listening and you got a ride from me, I'll do the King of the Hammers. You know what I'm saying?
All right, dude.
Wow. Yeah. So King of the Hammers 2020. We're gonna call up Edwin, see if he can put Myles in the car with 2021.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, dude. But and then what's funny is after I raced and all that stuff, then I bought a Razor, and then I started driving Razors and stuff like that a little bit. But I'm a two-wheel guy, so I like moto. But I had more experience driving the Razors and stuff like that than I did the race car after. So now if I went back, I'll probably do much better.
Yeah.
Probably do much better. And dude, it's scary. It's when you got the instructor saying, if you see a lot of people cheering for you, slow down. I'm like, why? Why? Because they want to see you crash. There's going to be a booby trap. I'm like, dude, I need security with me,
Oh,
Then I got a flat tire. Before I could even get out of the car, there's all these dudes around me changing the tires in the middle of the desert, man, in Mexico. Before I could even get out of the car, these guys were getting the jack off the back. I thought we were going to get robbed.
Oh, man.
I was like, dude, we got a flat tire. Thank God, I'm going home. Like, I'm done here. I'm going home. All these dudes just jumped out and they were changing the tire. Then they put it all back together. I didn't even get out of the car. Then they just took off again. Then got another flat. And then dude just came out of the woodworks, dude. It was at night too. And I was like, bro.
What?
Like where the hell did you guys come from?
What in the heck?
That's wild. And that's the one race we've never been to yet. Just because like somewhat of it, yeah, obviously like a little bit of the fear part, just like knowing not what are we getting into.
Yeah. Dude, it's an awesome event though. I mean, it's sick. It's really sick, but you gotta. It's like
live it.
It's like the top of the top. You gotta train. You gotta like mentally, physically, emotionally train. I mean, that stuff is like next level stuff, man. It's dangerous too.
Yeah, any sort of racing is just that. I think people underestimate, racers, and then you got NASCAR drivers and like, oh, that's not a real sport. Like, I mean, if you understood what those guys went through, being strapped in that car in a race suit, it's hot, you're sweating your ass off, driving at the highest level. I mean, think about. I tell people, okay, go on the expressway and drive at like 120 for 5 minutes, and tell me how stressful that is. And then, pull up right next to somebody about that close and tell me how relaxed you are. That's what these guys are doing for hours on end. And then don't tell me it's not a sport.
Well, I'm not worried about the driving. I'm worried about having to take a piss. You know what I mean? I'm 46 now, so it's like every time I get on the freeway now, I have to pee. It's like, dude, what's going on here? So that's why I never race NASCAR, because I don't want to have to pee during the race.
So
the release valve.
On the topic of the Baja 1000 and events, what is like in your kind of yearly schedule of things you do, or in terms of events, what's your favorite kind of event to travel to? maybe one that isn't like a dub event, something outside of that you go to. What do you enjoy personally attending?
So for the last 4 years, I think, or something like that, I've been going to what's called the Motocross of the Nations. It's basically like the Olympics for motocross. Each country sends 3 riders, and it's a race. So it was in like Italy, it was in England, it was here, it was in England. It's going to be in France this year if they have it. But going to that event and then having like a little vacation with my wife after that, I've been doing that for the last 4 years. And I was in Australia. I went to Australia Supercross. So going to these motorcycle races, motocross races or Supercross, and then having my vacation around it has been my kind of release, or something I really look forward to every year for the last 5 years.
Yeah, I imagine sometimes it's nice to go to an event as purely an attendee and not in some sort of professional fashion. I'm sure it's also hard because you feel like you're like, I want to take the reins on this. Like, I feel like I could make this better, but I'm just an attendee here.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, I go to events just recently before the shutdown. I was at different events and they're having credential issues, at the credential office, and my gut instinct was I jumped in behind the credential place and organized all the credentials for the people that were trying to run it. Because one, I wanted to find mine. It wasn't in order, so I put it all in alphabetical order. Mine wasn't there. I helped them hand them out. I was there for like an hour and a half, and then I walked away and enjoyed the show. Yes. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, it's the nature inside of me, I guess.
Yeah. I guess that's the blessing and the curse when you want something to that standard, but it's like people say, if you want something done right, sometimes you just got to do it yourself. And I mean, hey, it's the blessing of the curse of being that way. So what would you give to what advice would you give to younger people watching who maybe want to get in the automotive industry or want to start their own business within the automotive industry, who want to kind of take that entrepreneurship path that you took?
So my recommendation would be to potentially work for free, get hired, or get hired as a worker. Learn so much of that business and be so valuable about that business that you know what to do and what not to do, or what they're doing wrong. And then once you know what they're doing wrong, you can go do it better. But without having that knowledge of how to make it better, you're just a dreamer. And the only way to get that knowledge of how to make it better is to actually put in the work and to see it, to be around it. So I tell people, if you want to be in the automotive industry, get into it, volunteer, whatever, do whatever you got to do just to get into it. I mean, when I wanted to get into the nightclub industry, I was like 16 and I would go to these clubs, underage. And how would I get in? They're like, dude, I started carrying the records for the DJs. So just to get in the club for free and not have to show my ID. Yeah. So I would go and carry crates of records in, and that's how I got in the nightclub industry. Next thing you know, I started promoting. Next thing you know, I did parties, events, did all this other stuff. But I started by sneaking in the club by carrying the DJ's records. And I didn't even know the DJs. I would just walk up and say, hey, do you need help? And then they would say, yeah. And then I got to know them. Yeah. So then I would meet them outside when they come, and I would carry the records in just to get into the club for free.
Yeah. I mean, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the knowledge you gain in doing something is far more than just monetary and what you gain out of a job. So
also too, if you work somewhere or you work somewhere for free, they get to know you. And if you're a good person, they like you, they're going to do stuff for you. They're going to reach out. They're going to try to help you. But if they don't know you and you walk in and you're like, well, I want to get hired, I want $18-20 an hour, they're going to be like, kid, get out of here.
Yeah.
And then that person never gets the opportunity because they put up that barrier. To me, it's like, yo, check me out. I'll do it for free. If you like me, you can hire me. If not, I'm here to learn. If you want to teach me, teach me. Let's do this. That's it. Take it simple and then get in there. And then once I start learning, I'm like, dude, I could do this better. They're doing this wrong. Man, if they did that, the customer's asking for this. Why don't they give it to them? Mm-hmm. They're doing it. Like, it's all those little things that create all these huge opportunities. Those are what I call the holes. Those are the holes that you could jump in to be successful.
the things that slip through the cracks that the people on the ground don't necessarily see. But you being on the ground and in the trenches doing this and seeing those things and giving a fresh perspective, that's where you can, like we said earlier, add value to the business and make yourself that valuable employee, valuable person to these organizations. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. Well, most of the time the bosses are hearing the same exact thing. They're just so complacent or so scared to make any changes that they don't.
Yeah.
They know what they need to do. They just don't because they're complacent. You know, they don't, that's the difference between, in my opinion, an entrepreneur and a worker. An entrepreneur is like, shit, I'm going to break my back. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this work because I know it's better for people, you know, and you want to be successful, do something that helps people live their life better. That you're always going to be successful at that.
Yeah, I think that's important. Who would you say was your biggest inspiration, or currently is your biggest inspiration in the industry, in the automotive industry? Who kind of drives you and inspires you to do better?
Well, I mean, I wish I had the abilities and everything that Chip Foose has. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, he's you know, probably one of the most talented guys in this industry. I have probably 1/10 of his talent. I probably have as much talent as like this pinky as his whole body.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's always influenced me. I think back in the day, like guys like Boyd Coddington, you know, the owner of Traders Truck Accessories back in the day, my old boss Dico from Modern Auto back in the day. He owns, you know, Giovanna and GFG and all that stuff now. Yeah. But he hired me when I was 16. I got kicked out of school. Yeah, I went to continuation school, started hanging out there, and then he ended up hiring me, and that's how I got in the industry. So thank him and his father and his mom and his sister and their whole family for giving me the opportunity.
Wow.
You know, so that, and then when we first started, you know, like kind of working with SEMA, that the past chairman of the board, Wade Kawasaki, he's been mentoring me for the last 20 years, and Wade's been a huge influence in my life. And I, you know, thank God for him and his wife, Rose. They really made a difference, and they cared, and they took the time to try to help me and understand, you know, what it means to be the best that you can be, and kind of teach me how to stay focused.
Yeah, I think that's important to be able to recognize those people and be able to continue to have that kind of support structure, like you said, continue to be able to not just have people maybe who some people have like idols or people that idolize, but be able to have those people you're close to, somebody you can go to for advice, whether it's on a personal level or a business level, and kind of have that close support circle, that close network, I think is really crucial, and people undervalue that.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is having somebody that has the balls to tell you what you don't want to hear. And that's just it, you know, and that's, for me, I do that with a lot of people. And, you know, the people that need it the most are billionaires, you know, and people that I talk to on a daily basis that don't know why people like them. Is it for money? They're, you know, risk adverse on certain things, but they're just really bullish, and they got so much money they don't care, and just it's reckless. So those guys have a lot of anxiety. People that don't have money have anxiety. I mean, it's just, everybody has anxiety. But I think it really comes back to just, you know, when people strip down life to its bare necessities and, you know, really be vulnerable, dude, it's a blessing, man. It's way easier to live simple than it is to try to make everything complex.
Joe was saying one time he asked you about an idea he had, and you said that wasn't the greatest idea. Joe, you want to share that story?
Yeah. No, I was just thinking about that as you said that. Actually, I was telling Collin after one of the SEMA launch pads, obviously when it was still in a smaller room, you know, I had this great idea for an app or whatever, and coding some stuff out, and so I waited till the show ended, and you know, you finish talking to people, and I go up to you with my idea, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, all right, I got 5 minutes to like pitch this idea, whatever. And it was cool, man, because you looked at it and you were very blunt, very straight, and you saved me tons of headaches because you were like, this idea probably could be fixed better. You were very nice with your words. But the way I took Collin, I was like, yeah, he told me basically my idea sucked. But it was good because you need to hear that. Like, don't let me go down a path that's not good for me. Like, that's not.
So where is that at now?
Well, actually, I should go back to that. But thankfully, from that app is how I ended up with this one, marketing, working here, you know. But yeah, I need to go back to that. I'm not giving up, right?
No, but that's that's how it works, right? You did this, you showed them what you could do, and then you got in, right? You know, and that's what it's all about. So you know, it's everything is a stepping stone. You know, it's like guys that want to date women. You know, they're like, oh, I'm on, you know, Tinder, I'm on this or the Plenty of Fish, and this chick hit me up, she wants to have coffee, but I don't want to have coffee. I'm not going to marry her. I'm like, dude, go out and have coffee with her, because chances are when you're having coffee with her, some fine chick's going to walk by and try to holler at you because you're there with a girl. But if you're at the coffee shop by yourself, no chicks want to talk to a dude that's sitting there by themselves. So use these chicks as bait for these other chicks to come in, because they can smell it. You know what I'm saying? They smell. They're like, that dude right there is with that chick. I'm going to talk to him because he's here with that chick. Other than when you're sitting there, you're just with a bunch of dudes or by yourself. She's like, done.
It's like I tell people. It's like I tell people all the time, like when they apply for jobs, it's like, oh, well, this place wants to interview me, but I don't want to work there anyway. I'm like, why wouldn't you just, at a minimum, do it for the experience, do it for the interview practice, do it to stay sharp on your feet and at least see what's going on out there. Don't like, yeah, I really want to work there, so I'm not going to waste my time. It's not a waste of time. It's you're building your portfolio, your resume, you're building your experience. Like you said, it's nobody wants to interview the person. Yeah, I've been unemployed for 2 years now. Like nobody wants that.
One of my biggest thing kind of takeaway is my, you know, small interactions with you, Myles, would be building yourself, man. And I think that's kind of one of my takeaways with you as well. You know, being in meetings and stuff, and you're like closed doors, whatever, and certain industry individuals, and everyone's talking business. And I get it. Like SEMA is business, and you're there to make money and all that. But you reference the business side, but also like the yourself side, you know. And I thought that was interesting. I'm like, wow, here's a guy willing to talk about stuff that nobody else talk about, because it just you don't talk about that stuff, you know. But building yourself up and being okay with it, and I think that like you bring out positive in people, man. Like that's so helpful, so helpful.
Thanks, bro. I'm glad we had a great interaction, and you know, it's one of those things where I want to be honest with people, and also too, there's times when I think an idea might work, but I tell them it sucks, and I want to see if they have the balls to go and do it. And most of the time, they don't. So regardless of whether they have a great idea or not, it doesn't matter, because they don't have the balls to do it.
Quit.
Yeah, they don't have the
drive
to keep going.
So sometimes I do it purposely to piss them off. Yeah. So they'll go, oh God, I'm going to show this guy. And it's like, I'm watching them and it's like, dude, be successful, man. If you got to be pissed off at me to be successful, God bless you. Be mad at me. Go be successful. I don't care.
Feel that fire.
Yeah. So on that kind of thing, what do you think was one of the biggest things you did right early in your career? And to follow up on that, what do you think was one of the biggest things you did wrong that you would do different?
Great question. So I think one of the biggest things that we did was just staying true to our brand and staying true to our people, right? And that's just it. We're about the communities, we're about the cars, the culture, the lifestyle, the music, and just really the culture. So we stayed really true to that, right? That I think helped us and got us to where we are. My biggest regret is not selling the company in 2005.
Really? Why is that?
Yeah. You know, because the amount of trajectory in the business and everything was just taking off. We would have got the most money for the business at that point. And then, so going back to the advice for young people, if you start a business, try to sell it in the first year of starting it, and try to sell it every year you're doing business. And for multiple reasons. One is you got to understand how other people value your business and what they would do with it, or what opportunities they see that you might not see. One. Two, you want to develop a relationship with people that potentially could buy your business. So you're going in there and doing those two things as it goes. And then what I've noticed too is when people sell their businesses, sometimes they stay on and then they sell it again. They make money again. They make money again. They make money again. They make money again. So that would be my recommendation, to grow the business, but also to get that cash infusion, to work with a team. You know, it depends on what, you know, the financial institution or the people. They help take you to the next level. And you're just working and working to grow bigger and bigger businesses and getting that experience to go, to 20 million or 10 million, 20 million, 100 million, 200 million, $1 billion business. Most people that run a $20 million business couldn't run a $2 billion business or $1 billion business. Mm-hmm. Most people that run $1 million business couldn't run a $10 million business.
Yeah, I think that's
that's true.
Yeah.
It just changes. It changes as it goes forward. It's kind of like we talk about liability. There's been small upstart companies that will make anything because they're not looking at liability. Then you go and it's like you get all these larger companies and it's all about liability and risk adverse. Mm-hmm. Being risk adverse and so it kind of kills the creativeness because they're so risk adverse. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that with every major corporation. The entrepreneur is going to be the guy or the girl that's going to push it to the limit, like to the breaking point, and that's what I love about being an entrepreneur. We just got to go and push it to the limit and break stuff,
Yeah, I think that's a great point, that the entrepreneurs are the ones who are going to go that extra mile and try the things people aren't willing to try. And it's like you said, you when you went and partnered with SEMA from doing your own show, you had to give up that creativity because you were starting to deal with the bureaucracy of a bigger organization, but you needed that stepping stone to grow your business, but you did have to give away some of that creative control at the same time, which is unfortunate.
No, and we did, but what I realized was we didn't give away our style, and that's really what it's about. So we could go on and do things differently, display it differently, but as long as the car was banging and it hit our audience, that's all that mattered. So we could have cars at, New York Auto Show, LA Auto Show, SEMA, this, that, Hot Import, whatever, the Dub Show. As long as we have badass cars, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether we have one car, 10 cars, 100 cars, or 1,000 cars. As long as it's the badass car, it's good. You know what I'm saying? And that's what helped kind of propel our driver brand, is really just focusing. And that's what I'm saying, is understanding who our customer is, who's the fan of Dub and what do they like, and just delivering them what they like constantly.
Yeah, I think doing that and being able to be adaptable and flexible and working within what you have, but still having that creativity is really crucial. So how has things, like, cause you said with TIS wheels that you have been seeing a huge increase in sales because of the current situation. Yeah. How has the current situation affected your business as a whole? What kind of steps have you guys taken to change that? And what do you see going forward? How is this going to change your business, and how are you going to have to maybe change how you do things? Or do you think to a degree you can still operate business as usual with some minor tweaks?
Well, it depends on what happens after this pandemic. But I mean, I'll be honest with you, if I had to predict, what's going on, it's been happening for years. I mean, Bezos with Amazon is just, he's on the tip. Uber was on the tip. Uber Eats, all those people that planned for this potential pandemic, maybe, or just understanding the value of technology and utilizing it, are going to win. So one of the downfalls with Dub is we were slow to adapting to technology. Mm-hmm. With all of our pages and stuff on social media, we have 3.5 million followers, but we could have 10, 15, 20 million if we adapted to that technology early on, which we didn't, because we're still grassroots, handing 11 million flyers out a year, which worked for us, but we're slow to evolve into that technology platform. So, just understanding those things. And, when I started at Modern Auto, I was 16 years old, and Deco's father, his name's Coco. We called him Bob. I guess Bob means dad or whatever in Armenian. He told me something that just stuck with me. And I was just like, I don't understand what he said, but I think it's going to be significant one day. When I was 16, he pulled me in the office and he said, Myles, in business, for 5 years, you're going to make money hand over fist. and you're going to do really good. And the next 5 years, you're going to spend all that money trying to be cool again. And God damn it, he was so right. Right?
Yeah.
And it's that cyclical 5-year cycle. You know what I'm saying? So we've been here 20 years, so we spent a lot of money to be cool. You know what I'm saying? But we've also made a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it's that cyclical balance, you know, and you're only as good as the last thing you did. You know, I mean, TIS Wheels in 2005, you know, was significant sales. I mean, it was close to 30 million in sales, and it was all big chrome rims, you know, duck stuff, right?
Yeah.
Fast forward to 2020, it's all off road.
Yep.
But we reinvented ourselves, and that's what it's about. You know, you can't sit there and go, well, I don't know. What if people, you have to be like, dude, where's the money? It's like if you're going fishing and you want to catch great white sharks, you got to go where the great white sharks are.
Yep.
You can't fish in your backyard and hopefully you're going to find them unless your, you know, backyard's the Great Barrier Reef or you're in South Africa or out here at Huntington. But the reality of it is you got to go where the fish are. And sometimes the fish are not in your pond. So you got to evolve and move to all these different niches. You know, the riches are in the niches.
Well, and I think it's like we said, how maybe you're not, you and Joe were saying, maybe what we thought was cool just isn't cool. We've gotten old and our tastes have changed. I think it's understanding too that you may not like what is going. I know you may not like where the sales are personally in terms of your style, but you have to understand that and look at the fact of, hey, this is where the money is. This is the direction we have to go. Even though you may think that, you know what, personally, I don't like giant rims. I don't like camber. I don't like this. But as a business owner, that's where the money is. And that's kind of how I need to adapt my business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like anything else, you know, it's like, I remember meeting with like guys like Tony Hawk and all these very, you know, prominent athletes, and even Tony Stewart, the race car driver back in the day. And, you know, this was like 15 years ago. And they're like, well, you know, about marketing and stuff like that. I said, dude, if making money is selling out, I'm going to sell out every day. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because they're like, no, we can't sell out, or we can't do this, and we can't change this. And I'm like, dude, no, like I'm going to sell out every day, but I'm going to sell out in style. Yeah. Right? How about that? Right? I'm going to do it in a stylish way, but I'm going to sell it out.
You can sell out and still be true to yourself in a degree. Just selling out isn't changing who you are. And I think people miss that, the fact that if I sell out, then that I'm not going to be the same person I was before. You can, I mean, you will be a different person because you'll be wildly more successful at what you're doing than just focusing on selling what you like. Because I mean, a lot of people still might like what you like, but not everyone's going to like what you like. So if you can offer things for, maybe offer stuff that you like, and then offer stuff that these people like, and appeal to everybody, I think is the key in business.
Yeah, but that's you know, there's some statistics out there on, well, let me ask you this question. Between baby boomers, Gen X, and Gen Y, who has the highest success rate as being entrepreneurs, percentage-wise?
Ooh, percentage-wise? I'm going to guess.
Boomers? Baby boomers, hopefully?
No, I don't think it's baby boomers. I think it's probably Gen X.
Gen X? I can't. That's...
I'm not usually the one on the spot here.
So 26% up in success rate to Gen Y.
Okay.
Huh.
And why is that? Because they're building technology companies that sell shit. We build companies that have a computer. Those are totally different things.
Yeah.
That's why they're more successful.
Well, I think they're more successful because you look at these younger generations, the Gen X, the Gen Y, they've grown up with technology. As technology evolves, they've evolved with it, versus the baby boomers. They've been here the whole time, but true. They weren't growing up as the technology was growing up. They were already there and having to find ways to adapt to it, versus the younger people are so much more flexible and adaptable to how things are changing. Like if there's a new this, a new that, they could pick it up and figure it out like that because that's how they're used to life. That's how they're used to dealing with things.
But that's the difference. It's a mindset, right?
Yeah.
Are you building a company that has a computer, or you're building a technology company that has all these products?
Yeah.
Because if you have a technology company, you could change the products, go in different directions, do all of these things. But if you have a company that has a computer, you're stuck with whatever your processes are and the products and things like that. It's a mindset.
Yeah.
Definitely a mindset.
So, some closing kind of, I guess, vehicle thoughts. We talked about you're driving the Ranger right now. You've had a lot of cars. What is your dream car right now?
My dream car right now is going to be my wide body Raptor Ranger.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because I live in an area in the city where the streets are really narrow.
Yeah.
So I live in like this little canyon, streets are really narrow. The parking's not that good. So I would love to have a Raptor, but it won't fit in my garage. My garage is really small. So it's forced me to go to mid-sized cars, which at first I thought it was a huge hit to my ego. But I mean, I'm not doing it for the ego anymore. I want something that drives really well, and also too that's easy to park.
Yeah.
Try driving a big ass truck. I mean, I had an F-250 listed on 40s. You can't park that thing anywhere, you know?
No.
Nope.
And I got tired, you know? I got tired of parking in next to trucks that were bigger than mine. Made me feel small. I didn't want to get out of my truck, you know, because they started going really huge. You know, I was up, I think, 10 inches, and they're up 18, 24 inches on 46s. You know, and I'm like, dude, I'm short. Try getting a little fat guy to climb up in that, dude. You know, it's like I need a life insurance just to make sure I didn't fall out of that bitch. You know,
you got the little like folding ladder that like the rope ladder that comes out the side to climb up, and you got to pull it back up behind you.
So let me tell you what dictates how high I go with my truck: underground parking. Because I do a lot of meetings and stuff in underground parking. So I'm like, dude, I need a badass truck that could fit in underground parking. So that basically limits me. And then my garage here is short too, right? And narrow. So it's like, damn. So that's what got me to the mid-size truck. If it wasn't for me moving here to where I live right now, I live in Sierra Madre, and I live in like the roads and stuff, it's really like rustic. So it's real little windy roads. In this canyon, and you know, the garages are super small. The houses were built in the 1900s, 1920 to be exact. So it was designed for more like horse and carriage.
Yeah.
So when they say 2-car garage, they meant 2 carriage garage.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
2 horses.
2 cars.
It's a 2-horse garage.
2 horses. Yeah.
And 40-inch wooden wheels.
Yeah.
40-inch
So if I didn't have that if I didn't have that limitation, then I would go with something a little bit bigger. But I mean, you know, to be honest with you, having nice cars and doing all that stuff just gave me anxiety, dude. Because it's like, where do you park it? You're afraid to get it keyed or scratched. You don't want to hit something, you know, hit a pothole. The front air down so low, you're scraping and breaking it off everywhere. Dude, those cars are not fun to drive, you know? You know, they're chick magnets, but they're not fun to drive, in my opinion, unless you're on a track. I mean, then you can really drive it like they're designed to be driven. But, you know, my idea of a good time is being at the motocross track, you know, riding my dirt bike, jumping jumps and stuff like that. I mean, that's it. So, and part of my dealing with my mental crisis is, dude, just simplify your life. Because if you sit there trying to please everybody, or you're sitting there trying to say, look, I need that car, I need this, I need then you're going to drive yourself crazy. I mean, you know, even like the Lambos and stuff that I've had, you know, the battery goes dead. It's $1,800 or more, a couple grand for a battery. People just don't understand that. I'm like, dude, 2Gs for a battery? Then if something happens to the car, you got to take it to a Lamborghini mechanic because no one has the tools because they have special screws. So they can only use Lamborghini tools. And then if you want to do any work to the car, they got to drop the engine. It's like, dude, it's like insane. You know, so living through that, I mean, once in a while when I'm on the road and I see a Lambo, I get envious. I'm like, oh, I should just buy one again, you know. But dude, I kind of been there and done that, and it's not doing it for me. I mean, I'd rather invest in properties, you know. At least properties. I mean, I'm married, my wife's beautiful, I have kids, everything. So to me, it's like I don't need that chick magnet. Actually, I would probably get in trouble if I try to drive a Lambo right now. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just like that's like hunting with a trap. You know, they do like the bait and stuff. That should be illegal. You know, but you know, it's just really just, you know, again, simple life, simplify. Even though I could afford a lot of stuff, I don't go after it anymore. I don't need it to make me feel significant. And that is a good place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is a great place for us to wrap things up then. Myles, do you want to shout out anything? Where can people find you? Where can people follow you, stay up to date on things that are going on with you?
So people could reach me on Facebook, Instagram, are usually best ways, LinkedIn. It's MYLES KOV as in Victor, ACS as in Sam. And you can go to also my website, MylesKovacs.com. And, you know, again, I'm open. If somebody needs advice or somebody, you got an idea, you know, bring it. You know, I'll tell you if it's good, we're going to make some money. If it's not good, I'll tell you how to maybe make it better. And if you don't want to listen, hey, that's up to you, man.
Right on, man.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week. We really appreciate you coming on the show and taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down with us for 2 hours here and talk about pretty much anything and everything. If anybody's out here trying to find us, you can find us all over social media at Atturo Tires. Visit us at Atturo.com. Add your vehicle to the vehicle gallery and get all your Atturo merchandise at AtturoGear.com. And on that note, I hope everybody has a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Take some time to reflect, relax, and, you know, just take some time for you and your family during this trying time we're all in, and take a breath. I hope.
Hey, I have a question.
Yeah.
What is that poor guy doing behind you? He's been sitting in the same position the whole time.
Oh, that's funny.
Is that the guy in accounting or what?
That's Stanley in the office, man. You know, we're keeping it.
Okay, good.
That's funny.
We're keeping it real here with the green screens. Oh.
Okay, good.
Funny.
Well, yeah, tell Stanley I said what's up, and he probably should move around a little bit. Otherwise, he might get a little stiff. You know what I'm saying?
Probably. I get that blood flow. Don't want to get clots in the legs. On that note, everybody, we will see you guys next time. Have a wonderful evening. Goodbye and good night.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Myles, man. Thank you.